Do you remember any fun stories over your years now here in Taiwan?
Yesterday, I locked myself out of the apartment. Sunday morning, nothing's really awake. I go into my usual place. I've locked myself out like 2 years ago. So I went to my usual place, they're closed. And then I saw one of my neighbors in the 7-Eleven and I asked him in Chinese, I need a locksmith. I've locked out of my house. I told him, he gave me like 3 options of shops to check. The first one I did check and it was right. And so in 20 minutes, I was back in my apartment. If I couldn't use language, I couldn't talk to that neighbor who knew exactly where I needed to go.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the NG 英文 Show. My name is John Drummond, or Yang Hao En.
Hi, 大家好，欢迎回到 NG 英文，我是 Stephanie。今天的来宾 Kara 是一位火箭科学家 （rocket scientist），他曾经在 Texas Instruments 担任应用工程师 （field application engineer）。那他现在开始踏入创业之旅。接下来就让我们来欢迎 Kara。
I am joined today by the incredibly talented Kara, who is a rocket scientist, a field application engineer for Texas Instruments a few years ago, and has now entered the world of entrepreneurship, doing so many cool things. Kara, I can't wait to share more of your story with Taiwan and your career and so much more. So please welcome Kara.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me here today.
I don't even know where to begin, to be honest, because you have done so many things in your career that really speak to me about the heart of not giving up and not really listening to what somebody says that you can or cannot do. And so we're going to dive into all of that today, but I was hoping we could start with your first role. I believe your undergrad studies was working for NASA on the space shuttle. Is that correct?
Yeah, actually, at that time, my dad was a NASA engineer, retired, and by the time that I arrived, it had transitioned to subcontractors doing the work. So I worked for Lockheed Martin, and I was one of the space shuttle launch team for several missions, and our job was to process the space shuttle when it arrived back in Kennedy Space Center and check it out for our system. Our system was telemetry. So all the little sensors that collect temperature, pressure, whatever measurements you're collecting and feeding into a recorder, it's our job to make sure those are all still working for the next mission.
For those of you listening, the idea of saying something is difficult, you would say, it's not rocket science. And getting to sit with a rocket scientist. Yeah.
People would be surprised to find out that they are bright people, but they're also incredibly prepared. We had SOPs, standard operating instructions for everything. So everything had a plan. We were prepared.
And I love that because the SOPs are vital to a space mission, and knowing if at any stage of that SOP something goes wrong, you have to shut down the mission essentially, right?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, there's about 3 days of SOPs for a launch. And at some point when it gets exciting at the end, no one actually pushes the button to go. We stop it. And you have to explain why you're stopping it. So it's on its own at the end on autopilot, but then if you see something that you're monitoring, you have to stop it.
Yeah, and then you have to be really prepared to back up why you stopped it, which is
millions of dollars. Yeah.
Millions of dollars, tons of governmental agencies.
Astronauts sitting in there waiting.
Yes, yeah, not to mention the actual astronauts.
People in there.
Kara 的父亲是 NASA 的一位退休工程师。那换到 Kara 这一代的时候，他们都开始聘用一些外包商 subcontractors。那 Kara 是在发射 launch 太空梭 space shuttles 的团队里。那他们是要等到太空梭回到他们基地的时候做一些检测，例如说可能是压力资讯或是温度资讯 temperature。那这些仪器是要能够在下一趟旅程中正常运作的。那 John 有提到，其实很常会有人说 It's not rocket science， 是要表达说这又不是什么难事情。但其实Kara 说火箭科学家是聪明的，但是其实他们更应该说是非常做足准备的人 prepared。他们每一件事情都是有 SOP Standard Operating Procedures 标准作业程式，那也因此每一件事情都是有计划的。例如说他们是需要3天的 SOP 才能执行发射火箭，那这段期间只要是他们在监测 monitor 的东西出了点问题，他们就是得暂停一切。那当然他们也要有足够的理由去支持 back up 为什么他们要暂停，毕竟这关系到几百万美金跟政府的各部门。
Do you mind giving us, though, in your own words, a little high level? What are you up to here in Taiwan, and who are you? Who is the woman, the myth, the legend, Kara?
Yeah, that's funny. So I started out with that career in the defense industry, and then I moved over to Raytheon, and I did some telemetry software for them for guided missiles, and moved to Dallas. And at that point, we were having layoffs, so I was looking for another career change, and Texas Instruments was hiring. So I got in the door. I worked 1 year in the semiconductor fab, doing automation for the tools inside, and then I moved over to a group called DLP, which is a projector technology, a display technology. And they kept sending me to Japan, Taiwan, China, Korea in order to help customers here. Mm-hmm. And so that was my introduction to Taiwan. So it wasn't necessarily a planned travel to come here. And eventually I did take a job with奇美Group, a small division in Tainan, for 3 years. And then after that, opened my own company, not knowing what I was going to do.
We will dive into that. But wonderful high-level summary there. Thank you so much for that. And you were saying beautifully there that with Texas Instruments, you were getting to kind of service customers, clients all over Asia, and you found peace in a way. You found happiness in Taiwan. Was that an oversimplification? But is that okay to say?
No, very much so. And also, you know, it's a kind of a funny story that there were 3 support engineers in the U.S. at the time. Now there's a big team here in Asia, but one of them wanted to work in Japan. One didn't want to travel, so he covered North America, and they said, will you take Taiwan? I had no idea what Taiwan was about. I said, sure, why not? And it turned out to be 80% of their market in the next few years.
Wow.
So being open, give it a try.
I love that. Yeah, some wisdom right here. There's going to be a lot of wisdom through this show, everyone. I hope you're prepared. But yes, being open, giving it a try. And something so funny, Kara, that you were saying is in Taiwan, everyone wrongfully assumes you're an English teacher.
Right, because I'm a white lady, right?
White lady living
American.
in Taichung, right?
I'm living in Taipei here.
You're living in Taipei.
But still, I fit the profile, and, I'm a mom of 2 grown kids now. Mm. But I look like I should be one.
It's so fun. And the fact that you actually, you've spent your whole life as an engineer, a software engineer and an electrical engineer. Mm-hmm. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And always touched mechanical things, all kinds of different technologies, thermal, optical work.
So interesting. And if you don't mind thinking kind of the origin story of that, what made you so hands-on in that regard? What made you fascinated with computers and software and technology like that?
I love technology because it's either right or wrong. Because you get into
ambiguity.
Philosophy. You get into philosophy or you get into literature. What does the tree symbolize, right? That ambiguity of stuff, and I really like the conciseness of math and science. It's right or it's wrong, on or off.
Binary, right there. Yep, I love that. That's very well said. And I've begun my software engineering journey over the past few months, and it's the logic of everything is like you said, there's no ambiguity. It's either going to work or it doesn't.
Right. It either works or it doesn't. It doesn't matter how it feels about you, right? You just do it.
Yeah.
And so then that gives you that mindset. And I think some people are cut out for different things. My brother's an artist out in Albuquerque. He's a jewelry designer. And he's a wonderful designer. He's very artistic. He's a musician. All of those things that come naturally to him.
Kara 本来是国防产业的，他是做着他刚刚讲的工作。那后来他跳槽到一间公司做导弹的软体，可是他到了达拉斯之后，公司就开始裁员 lay off 员工，所以他得找别的工作。那当时刚好 Texas Instruments 在征人，那他就在那边待了1年的半导体 semiconductor 相关的自动化工具 automation tools。那后来他跳到一组叫 DLP， 也是一种显示的技能。那其实他当时很常被派到日本、台湾、韩国跟中国去协助客户。后来他接下了台湾奇美台南分部的一个工作，那这边待了3年。后来他就自己出来开公司，但他其实并不知道自己要做什么。那来宾也有提到，其实当时有3位工程师，一位被派到日本，那另外一位不想要派到亚洲，所以当他被指派到台湾的时候，他其实对台湾一点都不了解，但就这样答应了。那他觉得其实有时候就是要敞开心房，勇于尝试。那来宾这一辈子其实一直都在做跟技术或是软体相关的工程师。那他提到他喜欢科技是因为其实就只有明显的对错，没有模糊地带 ambiguity。
Thinking about now your career, if you don't mind maybe focusing a little bit on your entrepreneurial journey now. How has that been? What's it been like? Have you felt that there is any processes now that you can share that helped you? Anything for young entrepreneurs to think about before going into that journey?
I think a big thing is the community of other entrepreneurs, that we're all at different stages and we all have different strengths and we do help each other. The entrepreneur community is very strong here, and you have to kind of know what part you need. So figuring out your strengths and weaknesses and then try and connect with people like that and see how you can help them. You know, you need to be able to help other people with things too if you want them to help you.
Yeah, that's right. We spoke a little bit at the beginning of the show about people kind of telling you maybe you should stop or you can't do something. Can you share any wisdom about what you have learned along that process of doing things yourself?
You know, there's something that I learned at Texas Instruments. We had what we called stretch goals. You had to shoot higher than what you thought you could do, even though it seemed a little difficult or maybe impossible to do. The reason behind that is if you shoot lower, you hit even lower. You always hit lower than what you shoot for. So having that goal in mind, you have to keep going that way and recognize that it's naturally going to cut down a bit on you. So you just keep going, and if you are accepting failure when you start, if you're planning for failure, you've already given up. It's like somebody shooting a basketball. When they look at the hoop, they can see that ball going in before they ever throw the ball. If you can't see that, you're not going to get it. So you have to see it.
I love it. The stretch goals. Yeah, stretching further than what you can already imagine in a way, right? And then you might end up lower, but it's still higher than where you were. Is that right?
Yeah, you have to go that way, or you're always going to hit lower. You don't want to already limit yourself before you even start, you know?
Yeah, and I think about, you were saying some people, you know, out of their purest intention, they were saying, hey, do you want to keep going with this? And you were like, yeah, I don't want to stop.
Yeah, I always, I wake up every day and I'm excited to go to work and do this. Now, one day, if I decide that I don't want to do it, then I will change. And that's kind of, I don't know, it's my dad's philosophy. He always said, you go into business for yourself, you're going to work harder than you've ever worked before in your life. And if you don't like it, you can change. So people have good intentions. They may say, what's your expiration date? How much time do you give yourself? You may have financial reasons where you have to give yourself an expiration date. But for me, if I had that in my mind, I don't think I would have succeeded.
Yeah.
And I say succeeded. I mean, right now my company's profitable, but the new goal for this next year is growth.
It's great. 2023 is a year for growth.
That's what we're going
I think it's
for.
a metaphor for also my life. I'm also trying to grow.
Yeah.
So can you take us a little bit through kind of at a high level also, what are you doing now as an entrepreneur?
My company, Lone Star Technology, is a...
Shout out to Texas?
It is.
Hey.
It is. Texas Instruments. And only people from the States know that.
Yeah, love that.
People here don't get it. They think of Lonely Star, right? It is a supplier engagement solution company. We don't have any products. We offer services of managing clients' supply chains. Usually they've already engaged with a factory or several suppliers, and then they realize that that is a full-time job and they need to pass that off to someone so they can focus on sales, marketing, design activities.
Thinking about your own journey with that, you said something to me off air that was so powerful, is you've done now all of that. You know, when you were a field engineer, you were very focused, kind of tunnel vision on one task. You were hired to do that thing. But now, since starting your own company, you've thought about sales, you've thought about maybe marketing, you've thought about hiring talent and operations. And so you have that full spectrum, that entrepreneurial MBA. And has there been anything in that process that has helped you?
I think that you have to learn what your business needs and that you're not going to have the same thing as a large company. You're going to have to find people who have more cross-functional skills, who are willing to learn in a startup environment. You don't have the luxury of having the IT department to take care of your computer. You'll be the one to do that. And the same for sourcing, working with import, export. You're going to have cross-functional people. So you got to find people who are flexible, but also enjoy learning more.
来宾会给想创业的人的建议就是，你得明确知道你自己需要什么。因为台湾的创业圈其实蛮强大的，那他会建议你自己先厘清自己的优点跟缺点，然后再跟这些人做连结。那当然你也要提出你自己可以如何帮助别人，这样别人才会帮助你。 那来宾也说，他在 Texas Instruments 的时候，他们有个东西叫做 stretch goals， 这个目的是要他们定出一个超出自己做得到的目标。虽然可能会听起来很困难或是不可能，但是因为如果你的目标没有那么高，你会达到比你原本自己预设的目标还要低。所以如果你一开始就计划着要失败，那你就一定会失败。有点像是篮球一样，你得看到球框你才会知道往哪边投球，但如果你看不到的话，你一定不会投中啊。那像有一些身边的朋友会出自于好心的问来宾说，你确定要继续开公司吗？或者说是不是该给自己一个期限呢？但他都会很肯定的回答说，对啊。那来宾的父亲其实有跟他说过，如果是你自己的公司，你会非常尽心尽力的去工作，但就算是哪一天不喜欢了，那就换啊。那来宾其实虽然目前有在赚钱 profitable， 但他们明年的目标是要成长。他目前的公司叫 Lone Star， 它是没有任何商品的公司，那他们提供的是帮公司管理供应链 supply chains 的服务。那其实这些公司已经接洽了这些供应商，只是他们想要把就是心力放在其他的，像是设计、销售、行销等等的。那其实来宾他以往都是只做一个工作，然后只专注在一件事情上，所以目光可能就比较短浅。那 John 就会用 tunnel vision 去形容，就像隧道一样，他只看得到专注在一件事情上，可能对其他的事情比较没有那么的敏锐或者是了解。那来宾目前也觉得，其实他是开公司之后才开始关心销售、行销之类的，也同时发现其实他们需要的人才可能跟大公司比较不一样。他们需要的是比较多功能 cross-functional 的人，同时也要愿意学习更多。
Yeah, and it's so important for a startup, and kind of leading us a little bit also to the aspect of being dynamic with their language skills. And, you know, as you are now an entrepreneur in Taiwan, how important it is to have team members on your team that can speak multiple languages.
It's incredibly important. So for me, I would call myself an intermediate Mandarin speaker. I've studied a little bit at the university and had a lot of private teachers. But, you know, I know that local people can help me work with the factories much faster than I can, but having some English skills on their part is incredibly helpful too. When the customer has a quick question, I don't have to be the one to answer all the time. So, you know, having the multi-language skills is very important. We need someone who is an expert in parts, or would like to be an expert in parts, and would like to help us look at inventory, look at buying parts, and looking for best pricing on things, and work with a really cool team of about 8 of us who are assembling smart motorcycle helmets, complete with a camera and speakers. This year has Harman Kardon speakers.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa, so cool. So this team is, your product right now that you're building is a smart motorcycle helmet. And so that is giving you a functionality to connect to your smartphone, so you can...
Smartphone, handlebar controller, and the camera is embedded and sleek. You cannot tell that there's a camera on the helmet. It looks really cool.
Wow.
I ride around in Taipei traffic and no one knows I've got a camera.
Whoa, so you're already doing product testing right now.
Yeah, it's been selling for a year in Australia and New Zealand, and now they're entering the European and US markets.
So cool.
So it's not our product, it's our customer's product. It's their design. We just help them do it and we help them check.
So awesome. Yeah, so if anyone listening out there, a great opportunity to dive into some new exciting challenges and use your language skills and work with an awesome, incredible rocket scientist. So cool, Kara. Well, I wish you continued success with all this. I think anyone will be lucky to work for you and with you. So
I hope so. I hope we can find that right person to come join us soon. And I do think that work needs to be a rewarding environment for people who are there, because we want them to stay.
Yeah, and we were talking a little bit about kind of that retention aspect of, you know, how can we build company culture that makes people want to stay, you know, through, you know, unfortunately sometimes the ups and downs of a company.
I think on-the-job training is important. People need to train while they're working, you know, as part of their paid time, not extra. Shouldn't be after hours, should be included in the job.
Making people feel like their time is valuable. And
yes.
So yeah, I love that.
在来宾的公司会不同的语言是很重要的，因为像来宾他的中文大约是中级 intermediate， 那因为他之前有在大学上过课，也有请过私人家教，那他知道如果请台湾人跟工厂沟通的话一定会更快一点，再加上如果他们会英文的话，如果跟客户沟通， 那如果有问题也比较能够及时回复。那他们需要的是了解零件的人，或是愿意学习怎么了解零件。那另外还有管理存货 inventory 以及采购。那他们其实目前正在组装一个智慧安全帽，有一个内建相机跟喇叭。那他们的智慧安全帽是可以连接到手机，那内建相机也是那种看不出来的，所以真的还蛮酷的。那这个产品其实已经在澳洲跟纽西兰开卖1年了，但他们只是帮客户做检测跟测试。可是如果有听众想要尝试新的领域的话，或是跟一位曾经是火箭科学家的人合作，那就千万不要错过这次的机会哦。他也希望可以尽快找到适合的人，但他也希望对方是留下来长期发展的。那其实他刚好有跟 John 讨论一间公司该怎么去留住他们的员工呢？那其实就是奖励员工。像他觉得很重要的是员工训练应该在工作的时候训练，而不是要求员工额外花时间去学。
Well, do you mind if we switch gears a little bit to kind of more the story of you and your journey with Taiwan and your Mandarin learning?
I started coming to Taiwan in year 2000. The company thought that the business was going to take off in Japan, so they sent me there first. And it simply didn't happen that way. Taiwan was the leader in design of the projectors, and then manufacturing started shifting to China, but design is still here for the most part. And so that connection, it went from traveling to different countries to getting set up in the different countries. We had teams grow up in those areas. And Taiwan is so comfortable. I like being here. It's safe. And I've always had a love of language, especially, if you've ever had someone pick you up and drive you an hour and 20 minutes because they need your help to support you, and you say, gee, this is an hour and 20 minutes. I could have gotten here by myself, but they're concerned that you would be lost. Someone taking care of you like that. And there's the other side of it too. If you don't speak the language, then you're really not free to go anywhere you want or do everything you want because you need someone to help you and babysit you. And I didn't want that. I didn't want them to feel like they need to take care of me. But many a time, a manager would say, drive an hour one way, hour and 20 minutes, get me to their factory. I'd work on something, fix the problem, and then drive me all the way back. So that was really a big reason for me to learn Chinese, just to be more mobile and to be able to get around.
I love that, and to thank them also, in a way too. That's so beautiful,
awesome.
So pure. And along that journey, a question I love to ask is, do you remember anything that really helped you? Any actionable tips that our audience can apply to really any language that they are learning?
I think I run into people who, they say they want to learn, but they're not really dedicated to it. And you don't need to spend a lot of time every day, but you do need to spend time every day. I'm not doing that now.
Wisdom.
You can spend 10 minutes and you're still going to make progress and get better, but you have to chip away at it, because if you don't have that goal and that plan, you're going to stay the same. I've been the same for the past 5 years. I really haven't improved my language skills very much at all, but you have to have a plan. Keep chipping away and do it. And you need to write. You need to write and listen so that you can listen and write. When you get to that level, then you can use that vocabulary. Just because you read it in the book or you study it in the book, you can't really use it until it's really in that long-term memory.
Yeah, so well said. And I'm thinking about actually that in the concept of a lecture. If you can listen to a professor and be taking notes, you've now probably accessed that ability to recall and then maybe retain that information. And did you approach your language, meaning your Mandarin Chinese language, in a similar way with any of the programming languages? With NASA, was that using like maybe C or C++ at the time?
Yeah, it's C, and it still is. It's still the big language, even from that time, because it's compact. But I'd say they are different. The hard part about studying Chinese, or any language for that matter, is really just listening and hearing. Chinese is especially hard with the tones. But yeah, I really think it's different, because you really can't study your way out of it. You have to just kind of surrender to the language study. Instead of trying to think about how to do it your way, you have to trust that teacher or that instructor to help you through it and go with it and trust the process.
Yeah, trust the process. And as you said so beautifully, really just chipping away at it. I think we underestimate how important just doing a little bit every day.
10 minutes.
10 minutes, that compounding effect of progress every day it's so beneficial to any type of learning, really. But like you said, so beautifully for language learning. Do you remember any fun stories over your years now here in Taiwan? Any fun moments, maybe?
I don't know if it's fun or not, but yesterday I locked myself out of the apartment, and it's Sunday morning. Nothing's really awake, and I'm supposed to go with some friends to the beach. I have a car. We were going to drive there. And
bold on a Sunday, by the way. Were you going out to the East Coast?
We did go kind of northeast.
The traffic.
Yeah, it wasn't so bad. It was actually kind of nice, but it was very nice. But I go into my usual place. I've locked myself out like 2 years ago. So I went to my usual place. They're closed. And then I saw one of my neighbors in the 7-Eleven, and I asked him in Chinese, because he doesn't speak a word of English, I need a locksmith. I'm locked out of my house. I told him, and he says, where's your husband? Oh, he's not here now, so I can't call him. And he said, He gave me like 3 options of shops to check, and all in Chinese. And the first one I did check, and it was right. And so in 20 minutes, I was back in my apartment.
So cool.
If I couldn't use language, I couldn't talk to that neighbor who knew exactly where I needed to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the resources right there and problem solving right there. Yeah.
So you need it if you want to be self-sufficient. Now, could you have that special friend that does everything for you? But will they be your friend later if you keep asking them to call the locksmith, or how do I take out the trash, or how do I, you need to learn to do these things when you live in another country. You have to learn how people do things in that country.
I love that. Really, if you over rely on someone, they might not want to be your friend anymore. It feels like it's a one-way street for them.
Yeah, we need to keep friends as friends. If you hire an assistant, that's a different thing.
Well said.
来宾是2000年的时候来到台湾的，然后他一直对学语言非常有兴趣。他觉得台湾很舒适又很安全。那其实一直以来都觉得语言很重要的原因，是因为如果不会的话，其实有点难自己一个人到处跑，始终还是需要一个人去照顾，而他又不喜欢这种被保姆照顾的感觉 babysit。 那他觉得学中文让他在行动上 mobile 更容易、更方便、更轻松。那他会想要给学任何语言的朋友的建议就是，你需要每一天学习，不一定要太久，但至少每一天要接触一点，因为其实你会有进步的。那如果你没有计划跟目标的话，就会一直停滞。那他也觉得多听多写，这样子其实蛮不错的，因为会更加灵活的使用这些词汇。那他觉得学中文最困难的就是听力，因为有很多音调。那来宾觉得要相信过程 trust the process， 并且每天学一点，就算是10分钟也好。像最近来宾不小心把自己锁在门外，但因为他其实常去的锁匠没有开，他就想说他问他邻居，但因为他邻居又不会说英文，但还好来宾可以跟他沟通，所以在邻居的推荐下，他就找到另一个锁匠，并且在20分钟后解决这件事情。那来宾也认为不能过度的依赖 over rely 朋友，因为其实太常烦他们，有可能会渐渐失去这个朋友。那除非你聘请一位助理的话，就另当别论。
Well, a question I love to end the show with is, if you could go back and talk to a younger pre-rocket scientist Kara, would there be any advice you give yourself about language, being an entrepreneur, Taiwan, anything?
I think the biggest lesson for me is to do things today, do things now. I wish I had started my business 20 years ago instead of 7 years ago. So I wish just time, do things now and do more, do what you want to do, don't wait. And don't let people tell you what you ought to do. Do what you really want to do.
I love that. Yeah. And thinking about, asking yourself, what do you even want? Getting to know yourself in that intimate level, I think is so beautiful. So well said. Well, thank you so much for joining us on NG Ingwen, and thank you for taking some time out of your day. Where can people find more about you online and maybe about the company?
Well, come look for me on LinkedIn. Look for Kara Atchison or Lone Star Technology on LinkedIn, and you'll find us out there.
Awesome. Yeah. And shout out to anyone looking for some startup work.
We're growing. We're growing and hiring. So excited about that.
来宾会给年轻自己的建议就是做事情就要趁现在，因为他真的蛮希望他在20年前开了现在的公司，而不是7年前。他觉得要做自己想要做的事情，不要再等了，不要让别人告诉你该做什么，而是要做你想做的事情。那今天就谢谢我们的来宾 Kara。
All right. Well, that is our NG Ingwen show for today. We hope everyone enjoyed listening to that. You can connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and now Spotify. You can search NG Ingwen or you can search on IG, NG English ICRT. And don't forget to tune in every Wednesday morning from 6:30 to 7 and Wednesday night from 9 to 9:30. We'll catch you on the next episode. Bye-bye.